Hey folks, Jim Cathcart. I was just thinking about Cavett today. And, I had the privilege a few years ago to receive the Cavett Award. And when I got this heavy item, it was 1993 in Dallas. And it was presented to me by Cavett himself. Cavett would open the envelope each year, and he would tell the people who had been chosen as the recipient of this year's Member of the Year Lifetime Achievement Award, the Cavett Award. And it was such a privilege to walk up and receive the award from Cavett himself, because he'd always get choked up because he knew us all and loved us, and we loved him too. But whenever he opened that envelope, he'd kind of blow open the envelope and he'd pull the thing out, and then he'd go, and then he'd call your name. Oh, wow, powerful moment. Well, I had the privilege of knowing Cavett, as I've mentioned to you before. And what I found about Cavett is that the special quality he possessed was he had the ability to appreciate people and things more than most people I've known. He would go, this was the 1970s when I met him at a seminar in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He would go to the meeting room early and make sure everything was right. And then he'd open the door and he'd greet everybody as they came in, and he'd shake their hands. And always add, cheerfulness to the meeting. And after the meeting, same thing. And if you were the speaker and he knew you, he would sit in the front row. And he'd take notes on your talk, and he'd give you feedback. He'd be the first to applaud. He'd be the most interested face in the audience. So if you needed some reassurance, you could certainly look to him. In his later years, when he was in his 80s, he was still doing that, but occasionally he'd drift off and take a little nap in the middle of a presentation, but he was there. And Cavett and I were members of a group called Speakers Roundtable, 20 of the top speakers in the world, a group that predates NSA, goes back to 1960. And I remember time and again sitting at a meeting table with the other members of Speakers Roundtable, Patricia Fripp and Don Hudson and, the various other people, and Bill Gove and Cavett and so forth. And they're sitting there, and Cavett would offer his input. And it struck me while I'm sitting there, I was like in my 50s or 40s even. And I'm sitting there listening to the wisdom of all these people, and I realize, oh my gosh, here's a guy in his 80s, and he's traveled this path twice in the time that I've been alive. Wow. So his wisdom is really something I need to learn from for the future. And then here's someone over here almost my age who's more successful, or here's someone who has a very different set of circumstances. And Cavett was willing in his 70s and 80s to get up in front of our group of Speakers Roundtable Mastermind and give a presentation and have us critique him. And then he'd do the same for us. Wow. Eager to learn, greatly appreciative and grateful for everything that he had, and just a delightful soul, someone great to be around.